Look, I swear I knocked on wood when I said the Rangers hadn't suffered many pitching injuries this spring training. Alas, it seems like that didn't matter.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Texas Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way to help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about Cody Bradford suffering a bit of an injury. We'll see how bad it is. We're going to talk about why that's going to affect the Vandy Boys in Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker, what depth the Rangers have to make up for it, and the first broadcast on the Rangers Sports Network, the RSN, if you will. Now, on yesterday's show, I believe it was yesterday's show, maybe it was the day before, I literally knocked on wood saying, hey, the Rangers haven't suffered too many pitching injuries this spring training, because at that point, the only setbacks on the major league roster are guys who were supposed to break camp with the Rangers. Tyler Mahle had a little bit of soreness in his forearm, and so the Rangers were extra cautious with him and said, hey, we're going to skip your start today. We're going to throw Jack Leiter instead and have a super bullpen game. And Leiter looked mostly pretty good, and that was all fine and dandy. And the Rangers said it was out of an abundance of caution. It seems like today, Thursday, at least as we know right now, we're going to see Tyler Mahle pitch in that game. So really not that bad. Also coming into camp, thankfully the worst part of those injuries of guys who find out, oh, there goes my elbow. Usually the first couple of weeks of pitchers and catchers reporting when they first start throwing, that's usually the danger zone. Once you get to about this point in spring training, then like you hit that next wave of injuries. But usually the last couple of weeks of spring training, usually if you've made it through, again, knock on wood. Hold on a second. I think that's the wood that I knocked on. Give me just 1 second. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you could see me knocking on what looks like a wooden end table there. I'm not sure if that's actually wooden enough. And what I needed to do to pause was to get this. This is some actual wood, Louisville, or Louisville as they call it, slugger. There. I think you can even hear that on the audio version. That's some certified actual wood that I am knocking on. I think maybe that'll do the trick. I would have actually just gone up and gotten it on this here podcast, video podcast on YouTube, but then I'd be showing off my booty to the camera, and I don't feel like doing that on today's show. Not the mood today, because unfortunately we got the news yesterday that Cody Bradford, who I thought was going to start yesterday's game, most people thought he was going to start yesterday's game. He will be shut down for 4 to 5 days with an injury, some forearm soreness. That was Tyler Mahle. It was elbow soreness, which is very concerning. It's the last thing you want to hear about any pitcher in spring training. But Cody Bradford was supposed to be the safe one. This was the guy that we weren't concerned about. I mean, he had a couple injuries last year. Those were more freakish injuries with the back that turned into the ribs or the ribs that turned into the back injury, whichever came first, the chicken or the egg, the back or the ribs injury. It cost him about half his season, a season where he still looked very good. I mean, as a starter, I think his numbers definitely got overinflated from one really bad relief appearance, literally the one relief appearance he had last year. So you throw out that one game where he's still coming back from injury, pitched 2 innings and gave up 5 runs, just looked awful in that game in relief against St. Louis. But every other game he pitched in last year was a start. 13 starts, 74 in the third innings, a 3.03 ERA. And he looked awesome, legitimately awesome for a guy who was a soft-tossing lefty, a pitchability guy, a crafty lefty, a term that gets overused a little bit, but a guy with pinpoint command and control, does not walk anybody, doesn't throw hard, but the extension is so good and the placement of his fastball is so good and the changeup is also so good that he can dominate right-handed hitters as well as lefties. Still working on those breaking balls to be a little bit better against lefties, but he is a good starting pitcher and he's throwing 90, 89, 90. And then this spring, oh, look out, he's upticking to, 91. 90 and a half miles an hour. Not anything crazy. Usually it's the velocity that you think is what makes these arms go. But we have gotten MRI. There is no structural damage. It is just soreness at this point. So no need to go full on freak out mode, but just one thing after another with the Mahle setback. And Mahle, I know that he only got delayed basically a day. It'll end up being, again, assuming that the game is being played today, it was moved an hour up ahead of schedule as opposed to 3 p.m. Central Time. It will be at 2 p.m. Central Time because there's supposed to be rain in the Scottsdale area. Rain in the Scottsdale area. Rain clouds. Stop it. If you delay 2 different Jacob deGrom starts and have him pitch in games that I can't see on a broadcast or have StatCast data on, I will be very, very angry with you, rain clouds in Scottsdale. We'll talk more about that later on. But with Bradford, he was the soft-tossing lefty. You didn't think this was going to happen. And so nothing has completely happened yet, but he's going to be shut down for 4 to 5 days. And right now, there's still a level of concern. Thankfully, they avoided the worst of it. It wasn't, okay, Tuesday night showed no structural damage, but the Rangers are still unsure about the level of concern. Chris Young said, I can't tell you if this is something that's going to linger or last long, or if in a day or two the soreness is knocked out. Hopefully the time will allow it to calm down, but anytime a pitcher has pain in the elbow, it's concerning. And Chris Young is absolutely right on that. No matter who you are, it doesn't matter who you are. I just got finished reading The Arm by Jeff Passan, a book that came out 10 years ago, so maybe I'm a little bit late to the party on that, but one of the things that I learned from reading a whole book about the elbow and Tommy John and the UCL and what causes those elbow injuries is leading experts who have spent their entire careers and lives studying the elbow in terms of what causes these UCLs to give out, what causes these devastating injuries that cause pitchers to miss 12 to 18 to sometimes 24 months. Is it because they throw too hard or too soft? Because they throw too much or too little? Is it sliders, curveballs, changeups, splitters, cutters, two-seamers, forkballs, kick changes? There's not a whole lot of data out there. And to suggest that we know what exactly is going on with his elbow or what causes these injuries is just kind of silly. And, with Mahle, I'm a little more concerned about his injury and him coming back because the velocity hasn't been there just yet, and because it's been way down. It was down last year, and when he came back from Tommy John for those 3 starts, he got shelved after less than 15 innings. He had 1 okay start, 1 good start, and 1 bad start, and then shoulder soreness shelved him for the rest of the year instead of him being fully healthy at the end of the season. Went on the IL to end his season prematurely, also didn't come back as soon as we wanted, and now he's sitting around 91-ish as opposed to last year where he was 93, which was not near his 94 or 95 that he'd been in his most effective year. So with Mahle, I don't know at this point, but I've talked a lot about not just DeGrom, but mainly about Leiter and Rocker this spring, and are those guys ready to jump in this rotation? And maybe the point might end up being moot of, are they ready? Are they forcing the issue? They might end up making the opening day roster, the opening day rotation, because the Rangers don't have better options. And it might be because those guys pitch so well, but also it might be just because attrition and injuries. And I don't think that, I'm hoping that this is just a minor setback for Bradford, but at a minimum right now, we're talking 4 to 5 days off. And last time he pitched 4 innings and 41 pitches. That's not a full starter's workload that he's built up to. Theoretically, if he pitched in that game on Wednesday, it would have been probably 5 innings, somewhere in the 50 to 55-ish pitch range. Usually you jump up about 1 inning and 10 to 15 pitches per outing, and getting you up all the way to hopefully 5, 6, 7 innings, 100 pitches, ready for the start of the season. And for every day that he spends off, he's going to have to take those many days off or working back once he starts throwing again to get back to where he even was. So the 4 to 5 days off means it'll take him 4 to 5 days if he starts throwing, say, 5 days. Well, let's be the most optimistic. If he takes those 4 days off, everything feels good, he starts throwing again, then it'll take him 4 days to get back to the 4 innings, 41 pitch mark. And then you start working back up from there. And you're just starting to run out of time a little bit before we get to opening day. We're not that far off of opening day. We're 2 weeks away as of today. So that's 8 days. That's 8 of the 14 days until opening day. Let's say he's the number 4 in the rotation, the 30th. We are 17 days away from that. If Cody Bradford's the number 4 in this rotation, or he starts the 4th game, then you have 17 days from now, from when, I guess 18 from when he was shut down on the 12th. So you throw those 8 days to get back to 4 innings, 40 pitches. Then that start, he goes 4 innings, at 8 days he goes 4 innings, 40 pitches. Then the next start, 5 innings, 50 pitches. That's what, 12 days of the 14 that he has? Then maybe he can get up to 6 innings and like 70-ish pitches by March 30th. It's just, that's at the most optimistic on Cody Bradford. So maybe it's a moot point of, is Jack Leiter ready? Is Kumar Rocker ready? One of them might have to be. And if it's not them, I know the Rangers just sent down Emiliano Teodo to minor league camp, but they're still talking about him as a starter. And if the Rangers have any more setbacks, any more pitching injury scares on the starting rotation at all, they might have to keep him as a starter to help them sooner as opposed to later, as opposed to helping the back end of that pen like we thought he was, or at least I thought he was going to about a week ago. Coming up, we're talking a little bit more about what this means for Jack Leiter, what this means for Kumar Rocker, the depth of this rotation, if these two starters that have suffered little setbacks this week spiral into something worse, and what the Rangers' first game on the Rangers Sports Network look like, and what the rest will. All that and more right after this. This episode is brought to you by our new sponsor, Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery, and now I budget smarter and I save more. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. I'll be back on tomorrow's show talking about, hopefully, knock on wood, Jacob deGrom's second start of the spring. Hopefully we'll get to see that. Hopefully the stupid weather in Scottsdale will not ruin it again. Let's see. I am looking at a weather update literally as I'm recording, 9:35 a.m. Central Time in Scottsdale, 2 p.m. first pitch Central Time. There's a 65 degrees there. Hopefully no rain at that point. There was a 40% chance of rain at 3 p.m. and then 60% at 4 p.m. So if DeGrom just pitches real quick, I think he's going to throw probably around 3 innings-ish is probably what we're going for. We'll probably see about 40 pitches of that. We'll also maybe see Adolis Garcia. We did see him in his first game today. We thought that was going to be tomorrow, but thankfully, we have already seen him. He is back from the oblique injury. Not fully back, not playing the field just yet. But again, I haven't yet seen the Rangers lineup card for this afternoon's game in Scottsdale. Please, Scottsdale, just cooperate. But we're talking about the Rangers rotation. And if Mahle and Bradford have to be shelved for even a couple weeks, this is what the Rangers rotation would look like on opening day, at least by my estimation. You'd have Nathan Eovaldi, you game one opening day starter. I still don't think Bruce Bochy has outright said that for sure, but we all know it's going to happen. Then you have John Gray as your game 2 starter. Then maybe it's Jack Leiter and Dane Dunning as the guys jumping into this rotation. Maybe Dane Dunning is staying in that long relief role, and then Jacob deGrom starting the 5th game as your best starter, but just starting the 5th game. But then your depth after that is Kumar Rocker and Adrian Hauser, and after that, it's maybe Emiliano Teodo. There's not a whole lot of depth in terms of the starting after that. Again, we're talking about 2 starting pitchers on the IL. If that is the case, this is what this rotation looks like. So still, that's 9 guys. So if 2 guys are out, then you have 2 more guys that could come in. One of them would be your long man. One of them would be down in the minor leagues. And those 2 being Rocker or Hauser, or some combination of the 4 who are coming in for those 2 guys, or Leiter, Dunning, Rocker, Hauser. That's a decent place to be. Hauser is a decent guy if he's your 8th, 9th starter, which at this point is what he would be. I think that's a fine place to be. Hauser's velocity has been up a couple ticks from where it was last year. It's looking better. He's looked pretty solid this spring. Again, the Rangers would have to make a 40-man roster spot for him. They'd also have to make a 40-man roster spot if they're going to add Kevin Pillar, which I think they will because of how well he's done and how valuable a role he could play, hitting lefties and playing all 3 outfield spots. But again, that's assuming the worst or worse than we know right now about what's going on with Mahle and with Bradford. And with Leiter, he might have forced his way into the rotation anyway with how well he's done. Again, I talked about it very extensively on yesterday's show. I also talked about it on Friday's show about what he needs to do to make the Rangers rotation of just being in that zone more. I really get into it a lot better and more than I'm going to on today's show because I talked about it so much on yesterday's show. So go check that out. Also, if you haven't listened to my show talking about hats and the recalled hat for the Rangers, I had a lot of fun with that. Just showing a lot of range this week on Locked On Rangers. But either way, I think the Rangers are at a decent spot. I always get scared. I don't want anything to happen to anybody's elbow, least of all DeGrom, least of all anybody, really. I don't wish injuries on literally anybody, even the Houston Astros, but especially not on Texas Rangers, especially not on Cody Bradford coming off of the great season that he had last year and wanting to further solidify that as a legit mid-rotation starting pitcher, which I think Cody Bradford not only can be, but already is. But let's talk about the Rangers radio network, Rangers Sports Network, I should say. We're not talking about the radio broadcast. Shouts to the radio broadcast and those guys holding it down, doing a great job. But the Rangers have their own broadcast network. The first game was broadcast yesterday. If you couldn't find Rangers Sports Network on your television, don't worry. It's not active yet. Nothing's happening on it yet, but all of these Rangers home spring training games are going to be broadcast on CW33, which in Dallas is not Channel 33, like I said earlier this week. My apologies on that. It's actually Channel 9, because why would the number of the station be what channel it's on? That make too much sense. So that is going to be on if you have Spectrum or if you have AT&T Uverse, which I believe is still a thing. DirecTV Stream, I believe, is also on that, and I know it's also on DirecTV as well. Yeah, Uverse, DirecTV Stream, and Spectrum. At this point, that's the only broadcasters or cable providers that have the Rangers Sports Network. On DirecTV, it'll be on channel 677 when it comes up. Again, don't worry, not spring training games. Those are going to be on Channel 9 for everyone who has the CW locally. On Spectrum, it'll be Channel 448. If you have Uverse, it's 1752. So just don't freak out too much about that. The Rangers also have some new broadcasters. We got to see Elvis Andrus on the TV on the broadcast. He will be in some games. Welcome to Laura Stickles, who is joining the Rangers broadcast team. She has been with Nesson in the past up in New England Sports Networks, working as the primary sideline reporter for the Worcester, I think it's Worcester Red Sox. Forgive me my unfamiliarity with New England AAA teams, but glad to have her there. Emily Jones will be a part of the broadcast as well. We'll see the same radio crew, both English and Spanish as well. We'll get to see a little bit of, speaking of that radio crew, we'll see some games of play-by-play, pre and post game from Jared Sandler. the local kid. Congratulations to him being host of the pre and post game shows. We'll see some Elvis Andrews on some of those pre and post game shows. He said on the broadcast, Elvis did, that he's trying to get Adrian Beltre in the booth. We did get to see him on the headset. Those two in camp with the Rangers just warms my heart, them doing some tomfoolery, being Elvis and Adrian Beltre. Should be a fun year celebrating those two. One of them's getting a statue. One of them's getting inducted into the Rangers Hall of Fame. Elvis is going to be a Rangers Hall of Famer. Beltre is getting a statue, although I would love to see it if Elvis is trying to rub Adrian's head in that statue. I don't think that's going to be the pose. Probably going to be Beltre homering on one knee, but that is all very exciting. And just getting that first look at the broadcast, I mean, they did a really good job on that broadcast. I mean, it's the same crew, and I'm sure it's the same broadcasters, I should say, as the Rangers have had for a long time. Of course, David Murphy as the color analyst. We will also see a lot of Mike Bassick as the color analyst, Dave Raymond as the TV play-by-play guy. Dave and Mike and Murphy doing a great job. Actually, we didn't see Mike in that game. I'm sure we'll see him at some point later on. But the new score bug, the new just broadcast, what it looks like, getting away from all that clunkiness of Bally, it looks more elegant. The graphics look good. I mean, they had a little bit of bugaboos early on. Literally the first commercial break of, cutting Dave Raymond off too early and coming back from commercial a little bit sooner than I think they were supposed to. But overall, I mean, I worked in TV for a minute, so I've seen quite a few broadcasts, and there's nothing out of the ordinary for a spring training game. It's nothing out of the ordinary at all. It honestly was a really, really good first broadcast. Also, you'll be able to get games locally on the Victory Plus app. Still trying to figure out if you have a TV subscription that includes the Rangers Sports Network, if you can just plug that in and not have to pay the $100 to watch them locally. But hey, even if you have, some TV provider that is not among those four listed, just pay $100 to watch every single in-market Rangers game, which is, I think, all but 5 or 6 of them for the regular season. It honestly seems like a pretty good deal. I know MLB TV is $150 for every out-of-market game, but still, just it is. They're not paying me, but I have watched a lot of Stars games there, and I can tell you it's a really good product. Like, it is convenient. It is on a lot of different apps. On smart TVs, it's on LG. It's on LG smart TVs. It's on Samsung TVs now. It's on Apple TVs, Roku, Apple iOS, Vita, web streaming, Google TV, Amazon Fire TV, Vizio, and Android as well. So honestly, like it's a great time to be a Rangers fan, of just getting more of these games into the homes of Rangers fans, making it easier to access it. That's what was so frustrating about Bally for the average fan, of like, well, if I don't want to pay $150 or however many bucks a month for a Spectrum or a DirecTV or one of the 3 different services that you could watch a Rangers game on, or get Bally, FanDuel, whatever it ended up being in the end, Sports Southwest, it was just such a pain. This just seems like a much easier way to get these games, the quality of these games and broadcasts and the apps and all that. It seems to be way up to par, and just making it more convenient, much less of a hassle to be able to just watch games for your favorite team in a season where they're probably going to be pretty good. Honestly, seems like a pretty good deal and a good time for the Rangers to cut the ties with Bally altogether. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about this offense, Adolis Garcia being back, why my concerns early on in spring training about him before the oblique injury look a little silly, just one game back in. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1-ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. The satisfying crack of opening each shell. It's like snack meditation. Whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. Works as hard as you do. So get snackin and get crackin with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Shout out to the Everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. Back on Monday's show talking about, hopefully, knock on wood, Kumar Rocker's next start on Friday and all that happens this weekend while I am off for the weekend. Now, let's talk about Adolis Garcia being back. Their thought was initially that he was going to come back on Thursday today to play in his first game since suffering that oblique injury, which was deemed less than a grade 1, less severe than Wyatt Langford's oblique injury. Wyatt Langford is back and looking just as good as ever, but we got to see Adolis Garcia coming back and looking pretty darn good himself, DHing in that game. And, the thing that I was a little worried about with Adolis Garcia in that game, or in spring training in general, was the tweaks that he made to his swing. Now, Adolis Garcia has always been a guy who hits the absolute crap out of the baseball. That's what he does. He does well. He swings and misses a lot. He will expand the zone a bit too much. But last year, he still, even when he was having a down season, he impacted the baseball very, very hard. And he made a bunch of changes to his swing this offseason. And early on in spring training, Bruce Bochy said that, some of those changes might have been a bit too extreme. It was like he was taking a two-strike approach from the get-go. And instead of, being aggressive early on in counts, and then if you get behind in a count against a pitcher and they got 2 strikes on you, then you shorten up, then you worry about just putting the ball in play and things like that. And Adolis was doing that from early on in counts, but that was resulting in a lot of soft contact. He was shortening up that swing. He was trying to get more bat speed this offseason. That was something that he was working on. Also, just being healthy. He had injuries on both of his knees last year, so his sprint speed, the outfield defense was down, and just the ability to impact the baseball. And the swing length was long. The bat speed was slowing down from where it was in the back half of 2023. So the swing decisions became worse because he had less time to make those swing decisions. When the swing is long and the bat speed is not there, you have less time to say, okay, am I going to swing or not swing? And so he was chasing more. He was making worse contact. Still, even with that long swing and a little bit less bat speed, he was still able to impact the baseball. I think he went a little bit too far. Now at that time, not on the IL, but just on the shelf, dealing with the oblique injury, he tweaked a little bit with his swing to go maybe not as far, because his average exit velocity was in the bottom 10 percentile of spring training of those first couple games. Then he didn't hit a ball hard. I think he might have hit one hard hit ball in the first 7 games before he suffered that injury. Then he comes back, and the first at bat is a pop out 84.3 miles an hour off the bat. Thought, okay, well, still not super weak contact, but not a great AB. Very next at bat, hard hit ball, double in the gap, 96.6 off the bat. Okay, that looks a little bit more like Adolis Garcia. The very next at bat in the next inning, or in the 5th inning, 4th inning was that double. 5th inning, 105.9 miles an hour off the bat, a line out that had a 590 expected batting average. In a spring training game, that's the kind of results you love. You love to see him just hitting the ball hard. Like, okay, all right, that's 2 different plate appearances in a row that he had a hard hit ball. Okay, that seems more like Adolis Garcia. Then, in his final plate appearance of the day, 111 miles an hour on the dot, the hardest hit ball by anybody on the day. Granted, it was a ground out. Also, exactly a 590 expected batting average, just like that lineout he had in the, 5th inning. Was the same expected batting average of the ground out in the 8th inning. But 111 miles an hour, that's more like the Adolis Garcia that can do some damage. That's more the Adolis Garcia that can hit that 50 home run plateau that is his goal. Also 100 RBIs, but I think if you're hitting 50 home runs, you're probably going to get at least 50 RBIs just from the home runs, and maybe somewhere between 60 and 70, because hopefully some of those home runs are the 2, 3, or even 4-run variety. Some might call those a grand slam. But all that to say, not that Adolis Garcia is immediately fixed and for sure going to have a 50 home run season, but just nice to see him putting up those kinds of at-bats, seeing him put up those kind of exit velocities. And maybe I'm taking too much from literally 4 at-bats off the IL in one game DHing, but it's just good to see him impacting the baseball a bit more and him just honestly feeling himself and just being a part of this offense as opposed to trying to be the entire offense like I think he might have been doing last year. But the rest of this offense doing very, very well. I'm not really going to have enough time to get into what the Rangers did. I talked a lot about Jack Leiter on yesterday's show in a game where the Rangers scored 13 runs, and the first 6 batters reached base. They batted around and dropped 4 in the first inning. Heck, they scored in every single one of the first 6 innings, and they just looked unstoppable. A 4 home run day for the team, with Simeon leading off with one, Langford absolutely crushing one, Dustin Harris really getting into one, Kyle Higashioka hitting his 3rd of the spring. Also getting to see Jock Peterson hit that massive 3-run bomb in the first inning on the Rangers Sports Network, going to the opposite field. Love seeing that from Jock. The Rangers also made a transaction, a minor league transaction, and one that I don't know how much it'll actually affect the team, but the Rangers signed Hunter Strickland to a minor league deal. A longtime big leaguer, 10-year veteran of the big leagues. Last year, pitched with the Angels a career-high 72 appearances with LA, Anaheim, whoever they are, as a 35-year-old. He's 36, not a major league guaranteed deal, just a minor league deal with an invite to major league spring training, although most of his work is going to be on the backfield, so probably not going to see him in a whole lot of games because he missed the first month of spring training. He's 36 and he's not throwing 99 like Hunter Strickland used to. Hopefully he's not, starting in a kerfuffles like Hunter Strickland has been known to do. He has spent some time with Bruce Bochy in one of his final seasons in San Francisco on a not great Giants team. He was the Giants closer with 14 saves in 2018, the penultimate season for Bochy in San Francisco. He would hang it up after the 2019 season. But that season, Hunter Strickland was gone. He got a team-high 14 saves that year, and those are 14 of the 29 saves he's had in his career. So if you're looking for just a guy with saves, hey, Hunter Strickland's there. He's got 29 saves in his career. I don't think that means he's going to make the Rangers opening day roster. I don't even think he's going to make the Rangers closing day roster or roster at any point. Probably he's a little bit more of a finesse pitcher now as opposed to a guy who's chucking it 98 miles an hour, averaging more around 94 with the fastball. But hey, just another body in camp, and with I don't know that the Rangers have. I know the Rangers haven't made the decision just yet about Teodo, whether he is going to go back to being stretched out and trying to make him a starter. I think with the Rangers, sending him down to minor league camp at this point, I think that's probably the case. And I go back and forth, honestly, every day about whether Teodo should be a starter and, keep him that way because he does have the ceiling, I think, of a number 3 starter. And once you put him in that pen, in that major league pen, if he makes his way to the Rangers closer role, I don't think it's going to be much tougher to take him out of that closer's role and put him back in a starting rotation if he's already a nasty, nasty back-end reliever, which I think he will be at some point sooner as opposed to later. But with these injury questions, with Cody Bradford, with Tyler Mahle, and heck, it's not like the rest of the guys in this opening day rotation are the pinnacle of durability. Also, they are pitchers, so by law, they cannot be the pinnacle of durability because that's just the way pitching goes. I think that Teodo is probably going to go back to being a starter, but hopefully this Cody Bradford injury setback isn't too bad. Hopefully those 4 days off, he feels fine. Everything's good. Elbow comes back clear. Mahle pitches today. He looks good. The Scottsdale weather participates like I want it to, or cooperates like I want it to. And everything comes up Rangers for once in spring training. But hey, all those injuries aside, hopefully there aren't any more. Again, I've knocked on a lot of wood this episode. Hopefully it's enough to keep the rest of the Rangers healthy. Even if it's not, the Rangers have some depth. They have some good things happening for them. And hopefully by the time you're listening to this, we will know that Jacob deGrom for sure is starting his second game of the spring. And maybe he will still look like the best pitcher on the planet. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.